For centuries, the name Salazar Slytherin has been whispered with a mixture of awe and suspicion. A founder of Hogwarts, a Parselmouth, and an ardent believer in blood purity, his legacy lingers in the shadows of the wizarding world. But was he right about Muggle-Borns? Did his fears of tainted magic and unworthy witches and wizards hold any truth? Or were they merely the prejudices of a man too afraid to embrace change? Today, we delve deep into the enigma of Slytherin's ideology, uncovering its roots, its consequences, and the undeniable reality that history has proven him wrong, time and time again. The Hogwarts founders were visionaries, each bringing a unique philosophy to the school's foundation. Godric Gryffindor sought the brave, Rowena Ravenclaw the intelligent, Helga Hufflepuff the loyal, but Salazar Slytherin, he desired only those of pure blood. It is said that he feared Muggle-Borns, believing them untrustworthy and unworthy of magical education. Perhaps he looked at the persecution of witches and wizards in the Muggle world and concluded that non-magical folk could never truly be trusted. His fear, however, was not of their ability, but of their loyalty. Would Muggle-Borns betray the wizarding world? Would they weaken its traditions? Slytherin chose exclusion as his answer, but in doing so he planted a seed of division that would outlive him by centuries. Yet, for all his concerns, Slytherin ignored an undeniable truth. Magic does not discriminate by blood. Some of the most powerful witches and wizards in history have been Muggle-born. Hermione Granger, a witch of unparalleled intellect and magical talent, stood as one of the brightest minds of her generation. Lily Evans, a Muggle-born witch, feared herself so formidable that even Voldemort feared the consequences of her sacrifice. And let us not forget Merlin himself, a name whispered with reverence, believed by many to be a champion of wisdom, equality, and magical prowess, regardless of ancestry. If Slytherin had been right, if blood dictated power, then these figures should have been weak, their magic diluted. Instead, they reshaped the wizarding world in ways no pure blood ideology could have ever predicted. But Slytherin's fears did not fade with his departure from Hogwarts. They festered. His departure from the school was not a simple disagreement, it was a fracture, an irreparable split between those who believed in unity and those who saw division as a necessity. And that fracture, deepened by time, gave rise to one of the most dangerous beliefs in wizarding history: blood purity. It fueled Grindelwald's rise to power, it empowered Voldemort's reign of terror, and it justified countless acts of cruelty against those born to Muggle families. The irony? Many of those who sought to uphold Slytherin's vision, Voldemort himself included, were not purebloods at all. They were the very thing they sought to erase. So, was Salazar Slytherin right? The answer lies not in speculation, but in evidence. The greatest magical minds have never been bound by lineage. The most dangerous dark wizards have often been those who use blood purity as a tool for control rather than truth. And Hogwarts itself, it stands as a testament to the power of magical unity. The school has thrived not because of Slytherin's ideology, but in spite of it. If history has proven anything, it's that magic chooses its wielder, not the other way around. Slytherin's ideology did not simply vanish with his departure from Hogwarts. It burrowed into the very foundation of wizarding society, waiting for the right minds to unearth and exploit it. His ideals, though rooted in personal fear, became a doctrine for those who sought power through division. The notion that only pure-blood wizards deserved a magical education evolved into something far more sinister: the belief that Muggle-Borns were not just inferior, but dangerous, even unnatural. And so a legacy of prejudice took root, one that would culminate in dark periods of wizarding history, where blood status determined one's worth and survival. Take, for instance, the emergence of the Death Eaters. Voldemort, born Tom Riddle, was himself a glaring contradiction, a half-blood wizard who not only embraced Slytherin's ideology, but used it to justify his reign of terror. He weaponized the fear that Slytherin once whispered about, branding Muggle-Borns as mudbloods and seeking to purge them from wizarding society. But in doing so, he inadvertently revealed the fatal flaw in Slytherin's beliefs. If blood purity were truly a marker of superiority, why did a half-blood like Voldemort surpass even the purest of wizards? Why did he fear a boy like Harry Potter, whose mother, a Muggle-born, possessed magic powerful enough to defy death itself? The answer is simple: because magic is not a birthright. It is not dictated by ancestry, but by the individual who wields it. Slytherin's belief that Muggle-Borns were lesser was not based on evidence, but on fear. Fear that they would dilute wizarding traditions. Fear that they could not be trusted. Fear that they might one day challenge the old ways. But fear, as history has shown, is a poor foundation for truth. The existence of Muggle-born witches and wizards is not an anomaly. It is a testament to magic's will. The enchantment that flows through the world does not heed the prejudices of men, nor does it adhere to arbitrary lines of blood. It chooses its hosts freely, without bias, without permission. And yet, despite all the evidence to the contrary, the scars of Slytherin's ideology remain. The whispers of blood purity still echo in certain corners of the wizarding world, kept alive by those too blinded by heritage to see the truth before them. But perhaps the greatest irony of all is that the very house Slytherin founded has proven, time and time again, that his own vision was flawed. Not all Slytherins believe in blood purity. Not all Slytherins seek division. The house that once carried the banner of exclusion has also birthed those who defied it. Severus Snape, who ultimately rejected Voldemort's ideals. Regulus Black, who turned against the Death Eaters. Andromeda Tonks, who cast aside her family's toxic beliefs to follow her own path. Even Merlin, the legendary wizard believed to have been a Slytherin himself, was a champion of Muggle rights. If Slytherin had been right, if Muggle-Borns were truly unworthy, then magic itself would have turned against them. But it hasn't. It never has, and therein lies the truth that history refuses to forget. Magic does not answer to blood. It answers to those who are willing to embrace it, to those who prove themselves through talent, determination, and courage, not pedigree. The fallacy of blood purity is not just an abstract flaw in logic. It is a belief that has wrought destruction upon the wizarding world. Time and time again, those who have championed Salazar Slytherin's ideology have found themselves on the wrong side of history. Grindelwald, with his vision of wizarding supremacy, sought to rule over Muggles, believing them to be lesser beings incapable of understanding magic. Voldemort, a self-hating half-blood, manipulated this ideology to rally followers, preying on their fears and deep-seated prejudices. And yet, in the end, both were undone by the very thing they sought to suppress: the resilience, bravery, and magical prowess of those they deemed unworthy. Muggle-Borns have not only survived within the wizarding world, they have thrived. They have risen to positions of great influence not by virtue of their blood, but by their undeniable talent and dedication. Minister for Magic Hermione Granger, one of the brightest witches of her age, reformed outdated laws and dismantled oppressive structures that favoured pure blood supremacy. Lily Evans, with her extraordinary skill in potions and charms, left a legacy so profound that her mere existence altered the course of history. Even in the past, figures like Bridget Wenlock, a famous arithmancer, and Muggle-born auras who stood against Grindelwald, proved that magical ability is not inherited, it is earned. And what of Hogwarts itself? The very school Slytherin helped to build stands as living proof that his fears were unfounded. It has endured centuries of change, embracing students of all backgrounds, and in doing so has flourished. The Sorting Hat, a relic imbued with the wisdom of all four founders, has never deemed a student unworthy based on their ancestry. Instead, it looks to their qualities, their ambitions, their courage, their intellect, their kindness. If blood truly dictated magical potential, then surely the Hat would have followed Slytherin's wishes, sorting only purebloods into his house. But it hasn't. It never has. And this is where Slytherin's legacy takes an unexpected turn. His house, despite being founded on his principles, has not remained bound by them. Slytherin House has produced some of the most cunning, resourceful, and ambitious minds in wizarding history, many of whom have actively rejected the pureblood doctrine. It is not the blood that makes a Slytherin, it is the drive to succeed, the ability to adapt, the willingness to do what others fear to attempt. This is why Hogwarts still teaches Muggle-Borns. This is why Slytherin House still accepts those of non-magical heritage. And this is why Salazar Slytherin, for all his fears and rigid beliefs, was ultimately wrong. The greatest irony is that the magic he sought to protect was never at risk from Muggle-Borns. The real danger to the wizarding world has always come from those who let prejudice blind them to the truth. The danger lies not in allowing Muggle-Borns to learn magic, but in denying them the right to do so. Because history has shown that when people are pushed to the margins, when they are treated as lesser, they do not simply disappear. They fight back, they prove themselves, and in the end, they reshape the world in ways their oppressors never imagined. If Salazar Slytherin could see the wizarding world today, would he still cling to his beliefs? Or would he recognize the flaw in his thinking? Would he still insist that Muggle-Borns posed a threat, even as they stand among the greatest heroes, scholars, and leaders of the age? Perhaps, if he had lived long enough, he would have witnessed the undeniable proof that blood does not determine magical strength, that talent does not flow solely through ancient wizarding lineages. But history tells us that Slytherin was a man of conviction, unwavering in his distrust of those without magical ancestry. And so, instead of evolving, he left, choosing separation over adaptation, division over unity. His departure, however, did not end his influence. The Chamber of Secrets, his hidden legacy, lay dormant beneath the castle, waiting for the day when a true heir would rise to finish his work. When the chamber was finally opened in modern times, it was not by some powerful pureblood champion, but by a misguided child manipulated by a fragment of Voldemort's soul. The so-called heir of Slytherin, a wizard who despised his own half-blood status, used the monster within to terrorize students, not because they were weak, but because they were strong. The attack on Muggle-Borns was never about their magical ability. It was about maintaining a crumbling ideology built on fear and false superiority. But Hogwarts did not fall. The school did not bow to the will of the basilisk, nor did its students and professors succumb to the terror instilled by Voldemort's twisted vision of Slytherin's ideals. The chamber was sealed once more, not by a pure-blood purist, but by a half-blood boy raised by Muggles, armed with the sword of a Gryffindor. And with each passing generation, the influence of Slytherin's ideology has continued to wane, challenged at every turn by those who refuse to be defined by blood. This is the ultimate proof that Salazar Slytherin was wrong. The world he feared never came to pass. Muggle-Borns did not destroy wizardkind, they enriched it. The traditions he sought to protect did not wither, they thrived, evolving alongside new generations of witches and wizards who brought fresh perspectives and talents. The very house he founded, though still carrying echoes of his past, has grown beyond the constraints he tried to impose upon it, and the wizarding world, once plagued by blood prejudices and fear, has begun to move forward, embracing the truth that has been evident all along. Magic belongs to those who wield it, not those who inherit it. Even now, remnants of Slytherin's ideology persist in small pockets of society, whispered among those too afraid to let go of the past. But they are just that, remnants. Shadows of a fading belief, clinging desperately to a world that no longer needs them. The future of magic is not in pure blood exclusivity, but in unity, in diversity, in the acceptance that strength comes from all corners of the magical world. It is a lesson that history has taught time and time again, and for those who still refuse to learn it, the answer is simple. Look to those who have changed the world. Look to the Muggle-Borns who have risen to greatness, the half-bloods who have shattered expectations, the purebloods who have rejected the chains of old thinking. That is where the true power of magic lies. And so, as we stand in the present, looking back at the long and turbulent history of the wizarding world, one truth remains undeniable. Salazar Slytherin was wrong. Not just in his prejudices, but in his very understanding of magic itself. His belief that Muggle-Borns were unworthy, that they would bring ruin to wizarding society, has been shattered time and time again by those who have proven that magic is not something dictated by lineage, but by potential. The greatest witches and wizards of history have risen not because of their blood, but because of their actions. They have defied expectations, broken barriers, and redefined what it means to be magical. What remains of Slytherin's ideology is not a testament to its strength, but to the persistence of fear. Fear of change, fear of losing control, fear of a world that refuses to conform to outdated beliefs. But fear has never been a match for truth. Fear has never been able to stop the tide of progress. And as much as Slytherin sought to build a world where only purebloods reigned, that world never truly existed. Because magic, at its core, does not discriminate. It never has, it never will. Hogwarts, the very institution he helped to found, stands as the ultimate rebuke to his vision. Its halls echo not with cries of blood purity, but with the voices of students from every background, learning, growing, and shaping the future of the wizarding world together. The sorting hat, imbued with the wisdom of the founders, continues to sort based on a student's heart, not their heritage. And Slytherin House itself, once synonymous with exclusivity, has become a home for those who seek ambition, cunning, and resourcefulness, regardless of blood status. The ghosts of the past may linger, but they do not dictate the future. The final irony of it all is that, had Slytherin embraced the very Muggle-Borns he feared, his house and his legacy might have become something far greater than he ever imagined. Perhaps, in a different reality, he would have seen that talent knows no bloodline, that the strength of the wizarding world does not come from shutting people out, but from bringing them in, that unity, not division, is what allows magic to thrive. And so, we close this chapter not with anger towards Salazar Slytherin, but with understanding. He was a man of his time, shaped by his fears, blinded by his beliefs. But the wizarding world has moved beyond him. His ideology has crumbled beneath the weight of history, and in its place stands a world that is stronger, wiser, and infinitely more magical. A world where witches and wizards of all backgrounds stand side by side, not because of their blood, but because of their shared love of magic. And that is something that even Salazar Slytherin himself, in his quietest moments, might have come to admire.